Congress passed the federal carjacking statute in 1992 to address the growing number of violent car thefts in America. To violate the statute, an individual must use force, violence, or intimidation to steal a car from the victim's person or presence. But what does presence mean in this context? The Third Circuit addressed this question in United States v. Lake. Milton Clarke was reading a newspaper on the beach in St. Thomas when Hilton Lake approached. Lake asked Clarke if he owned a white car in the parking lot, which was located at the top of a hill out of sight from the beach. Clarke said yes, and Lake asked to borrow the car. Clarke rebuffed him, and Lake walked away, only to reappear multiple times with the same request. When Clarke finally swore at Lake to leave him alone, Lake brandished a gun and demanded his car keys. Claiming not to have them, Clarke waded into the water. Clarke was waist-deep in the water when his friend Pamela Croker materialized on the beach. Clarke tried to warn Croker, but his shouting prompted Lake to approach and demand her car keys. When Croker refused to hand over the keys, Lake took them from her at gunpoint and sprinted up the hill toward the parking lot where her car was also parked. Croker waited for Clarke to emerge from the water, and then the two of them chased after Lake. However, by the time they reached the parking lot, Lake was already driving away. The police arrested Lake later that day. After a jury trial in federal district court, Lake was convicted of using a gun during a crime of violence, specifically a carjacking, in violation of federal law. On appeal to the Third Circuit, Lake argued that he didn't violate the federal carjacking statute and thus wasn't guilty of the predicate crime of violence underlying his conviction. Lake reasoned that he didn't steal Croker's car from her person or presence as required by the statute because Croker could neither see nor touch the car at the time of the taking.